Hello, beautiful souls. I'm your host, Shakira Moore, and welcome to episode 6 in the series Revisited. So, for this week, I'm going to revisit previously recorded season 3, episode 9, The Perspective Matters, because I felt like it was appropriate to just remind us of some truths, especially in a time like this where death and dying and loss just feel more prevalent. Now, in season 3, episode 9, I looked at the benefits of being open to different points of view, being willing to hear somebody else's side, being open to both sides of an argument. For this week, I'm taking a different approach. I want to revisit the perspective matters because I want to remind us of the importance of the perspective that we hold. Meaning, how we look at things, how we respond to things really will perpetuate the feelings that we're having at the time. And I say this because this week especially has been challenging emotionally. Now, we've all been living and dealing and trying to adjust to life because of a global pandemic. The last 19 months of our lives have really been challenging. The last 19 months of our lives, I feel like, is akin to being on a roller coaster. And it's a roller coaster where you're not even aware of the twists and turns and the dips and the climbs as this ride goes on because you're blindfolded. So you don't know what's coming until you're in it. So yeah, I'd like to think every week would feel like, oh, this week was a rough one. But I gotta tell you, this past week is right up there with the rest of them. So 3 funerals, all virtual, because obviously trying to keep the numbers down in terms of attendance. So 3 funerals virtually this week. News of a close family friend being diagnosed with a terminal illness. News of other persons passing. It was as if each day was trying to outdo the previous one with the number of bad news and how tragic the bad news was. This week was really, really demanding from an emotional point of view. And I just felt the need to just remind myself that how I choose to look at things really will perpetuate whatever I'm feeling. So if I make the decision to focus on all the news of death and all the funerals and all the illness and the disease and all those tragic news, then the prevailing feeling I'll have is sadness, loss, diminishing hope, and that's not a nice place to be, and it's certainly not comfortable. But if I choose to focus on the good things, so the weather is still decent, I'm still healthy, most of my friends and family are healthy, I still have a career, I do my podcast weekly, I still have things to look forward to, I can still see the beauty in life, and I can get to decide what am I going to focus on. And I do have a choice. So while I can still grieve and mourn the loss of dear friends, I can also choose to not let the loss devastate me. And for that reason, I wanted to revisit the topic of the perspective matters, because it really and truly does. And I feel like right now, in this moment in time, I need that reminder, and I feel like most of us need that reminder too, that the decision to focus on one thing or the other is yours. So when you hear numbers being reported on the news, you can choose to focus on the number of new cases, the number of deaths, or the number of people recovering, because they report all 3 as far as I've seen. So what are you going to focus on? You can focus on the number of people who are dying, or you can focus on friends who've given birth, friends who are starting families, friends who are launching businesses, friends who are taking on projects that are going to grow and stretch them, and you have a front row seat to that. So what are you going to focus on? And I'm not saying to feel sad, to feel the loss is a bad thing, because there is a time for it. There is a place for it. Absolutely. So feel sad, cry, grieve, because it is a natural process. It's a part of life. The Bible tells you there is a time and place for everything under the sun. So there's a time to rejoice and there's a time to grieve. There's a time to cry and there's a time to laugh. There's a time to plant and there's a time to reap. So in your life, you will go through these cycles and you have to sit in it, deal with it, and then slowly but surely pick up the pieces and move on. So I just wanted to remind us that in spite of everything that's going on in this world, you get to decide how you respond to it. You get to decide how you feel about it. And if you're experiencing loss, just think about all the other things that you still have. So you've lost a friend, you've lost a dear loved one. While you're grieving, in the midst of that grief, be reminded that you still have love around you. So for those people who are still with you, hold them tighter, hug them longer, cherish them even more, because in this moment you are experiencing a devastating loss. So you know what that is, and that should spark a deeper sense of appreciation for what you still have. So that's what I'm choosing to do right now as I think about all the loss that I'm dealing with. Yes, I'll still cry. Yes, I'll still break down. Yes, I'll still feel sad. But the beauty about this life is we live in duality. So I can be crying this minute and keeling over with laughter in the next. And it's not to say that I feel any less sad or lack the reverence to, acknowledge the loss. But it's a cycle and there is ebbs and flows. So hold on to the things that you cherish. Love on your family, on your friends, on your precious folks some more. Call somebody up and, have a good conversation. Check in. Remind them that you are here and that you care. Check in on yourselves too, because you can't pour from an empty cup or a half-filled cup. I encourage you to pour from the overflow. And just remember that there is a time and place for absolutely everything under the sun. And if we have life, we also have death. And it's a natural part of the journey that we have to deal with and embrace. It is painful. It is hard to do. But the reality is none of us are making it out of this alive. And I don't want to sound morbid, but you have to come to terms with your own mortality. They are doing their ever-loving best to try and make us immortal. But until then, we have to face our own mortality, come to terms with it, make our peace with it. And that way, whenever we experience loss, it'll hurt, but we can accept it. So my beautiful souls, thank you so much for your faithful listenership. I appreciate each and every one of you who choose to listen and to share and to provide feedback. This is important to me and I love what I do. I recognize that in this world there is so much darkness and hope is such a fleeting thing, that if I can share a kind, encouraging word to lift your spirits and to renew and restore your hope, then I'll happily do it, and I'll do it every week. So that is why I do this podcast. And I just wanted to remind us that as we finish out the year, as more things begin to roll out, as things begin to happen and we question why, when, how, just remember that how you respond, how you feel, these are all your choices. So you can choose to dwell in the sadness, or you can choose to be grateful and show appreciation for the things that you still have. So take a moment, pause, reflect, try and come up with at least 5 things that you appreciate about your life, appreciate about what's going on for you and with you, and do what you can to put a smile on your face, even as the tears stream down. If you give it a try, you can find something to smile about, even if it's a fond memory of the person you're mourning. I'll be back next week for sure with another episode that I'll revisit. But until then, remember, there are 2 sides to every coin, so just flip it to get the full view. And I will catch you next week. Bye.